I can't see. I can't see the comments though. It's still live, but I guess. Um, it is lagging. It is. Oh, you know what? It's not even live. See, that's not on my page. It could have been live from the. I got the podcast page under there too. I don't know how to leave it, so we can leave it like that, and I can just share it on the podcast. I'm about to break my live up in the two parts. So. Everybody be hating. They don't be trying to block it with the music. So. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I seen it went back and did that. Yeah, it did that to the when we had the car club. I said, why y'all going back to stuff that's on my phone? So I can't go live until at least we cut the music thing. Like, and I gotta get home to my son. He's so special to me. I gotta see him. I need to breathe him. That's my baby. Don't call me crazy. I love the studio, but I love him more. Let me give you what I got, so. I wake up in the morning feeling fresh to death. I'm so blessed. Yes, yes. I went to sleep stressful, felt refreshed. I'm so blessed. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Woke up in my place and everything is in its place. Peace of mind, even my grace. I'm so blessed. Yes, yes, yes. My grandma almost lived to see 92. I'm so blessed. Yes, yes, yes. My son was born young, young, so I'm so yes, yeah, yes. I'm always on the right side. Daddy, that's about to do it. It's absolute. I'm so blessed, blessed, blessed. Yeah, yeah, I know, I know. What's gonna happen? Nothing just wanna listen to this song. It's so it's lagging. Welcome to the DMV's Vibe Podcast. I am Miss Pink. I'm Brenda Swagger. And today, well, this month, we is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
And, we talk about mental health awareness every single Sunday on the show. Just so everybody know, like, it's a very important topic. So I did want to bring awareness, and we're going to talk about the warning signs and everything today. We live on Facebook today. We live on YouTube. I'm live on
Live, baby.
Instagram. Um,
Live.
but so I want before we even jump into it, because I titled the show, "Are You Really Okay?" Because I think every day in our daily life, we always ask people how you doing, but most of the time we don't even wait for a response.
Right.
It's just another conversation starter or just a filler. And a lot of people don't really say what's going on. They just give you, "Oh, I'm good, I'm okay," and sometimes we're not okay. And it's okay to not
To
be
not be
okay.
okay.
Um, so I did want to, we're going to jump in there and talk about a lot of people think mental health involves one or two things, like it would be um, depression or stress, when there's actually a lot of things that fall under the spectrum of mental health. So it's stress, which can also have PTSD, you have depression, the autism spectrum disorder, ASD, you have bipolar, it can be eating disorders, addictions, anxiety, schizophrenia, and ADHD. Um, so today we're going to discuss not just for adults and adults, we're also going to be talking about children and how to identify the warning signs in children. Um, I know that you work with kids.
That have all that stuff that you just named on that list.
Yeah, so I've worked with those kids. The school that I worked at, I ain't gonna throw them out there, but they I think people understand when you have kids that fall under the autism spectrum, the biggest thing is inclusion. But I realize in a lot of Prince George's County schools, they separate them. Like the schools that I worked at, they had a whole separate wing where
Yes,
all those kids were grouped together.
they do. Because when I worked for Prince George's County Public Schools, that's what they had. They had what we literally called ourselves the Link. And they took all the okay, so I'm just give y'all a little breakdown when it comes to special education. So you have LD, which is a learning disability, and then you have ED, which is usually that involves with the emotional disability. Then you have other health impaired. So it's all these different labels um, that children can have being instead. And one thing that I noticed, especially with the autism spectrum, actually in grad school, my final paper in grad school was actually on how their ED and autistic children should not be in the same classroom together because um, with I don't know if anybody is really familiar with autism, but the spectrum is so broad and so wide. There's so many different I'll say characteristics when it comes down to autism because you have Asperger's, which is most adult. You find a lot of adults actually have this. They're high functioning. They may be very very smart, but they don't have the best social skills. And so you have kids that like those that are in a classroom with children that have emotional disabilities. It does not work out. I've been working in special education since 2013. I've been working with children since 2007, 8, something like that. So I've seen all of this, and it does when you working in the school system, you see a lot of things, and definitely inclusion is something that lacks because even though these children have disabilities and they're different, but that doesn't mean that they don't deserve the same type of education or they don't deserve the same opportunities that a regular child get or a regular ed child should receive. But definitely all of those different disorders is it's a lot. And especially when you deal with children that may be autistic, but they may have some bipolar in there, or there may be some schizophrenia or something else. I've seen so many different things, especially with mental illness. So I'm a very big advocate on mental illness and different disorders and stuff. And you're exactly correct. They deserve the same type of love that any other child should get, but a lot of them don't, and that's why they end up in the situations that they end up in, because they don't get the same love and attention that regular
Yeah.
children get.
Um, so not only did I work for the school board, I worked for Maryland National Park and Planning Commission. So that's all the community centers in Prince George's County, and I think that was really my first on-hand experience working with not just what I want to say bad kids, because I worked in schooling. So if I had your kids, some of y'all kids is rough, but we had a lot of kids that were a part of what their program is called the inclusion program for kids that fall under the spectrum. And I say they did an amazing job when it came to including those children in all different kinds of activities and not having them left out. Um, they even had workshops, in the summer where someone from the program would come out and do other things to help the children engage with those kids that fall under the spectrum. And I'm like, if they can do that for children as an adults, if adults took that workshop, I think they would have a better understanding. Um, so some of the warning signs that you can look for, I'm gonna start by saying for children, because I feel like it's we live in a generation now where a lot of people are like, not my child, or not, or they just brush it off. I think it's really important. That's why we talked about on the Mother's Day episode to be involved in your child's life and pay attention more. Because the warning signs can be very simple. Um, you have sadness that may last for 2 or more weeks. To be very withdrawn in any social setting or even in the family setting. Trying to harm themselves. The random mood swings where they can't really explain what's going on. Why 1 minute they're extremely happy and the next minute they're extremely sad. Their academic performance, lack of sleep, extreme irritability. They may have experience where children will just randomly start talking about death. Not necessarily how they're going to die, but they just start having those conversations, and you're trying to figure out where it's coming from. Um, the out of control and sporadic behavior, weight loss, persistent headaches or stomach aches. So yeah, sometimes y'all children don't be lying about their stomach hurting, but because they haven't fully learned how to voice how they feel, don't say just go drink some ginger ale later. Like you really should be engaging in those conversations with your children. Um, as an adult, I know that we all have busy lives, and we're all guilty of we call ourselves checking in on people. But sometimes when we do our check-ins, we become a little bit selfish. I know I've done it before. Well, I'll call and check on a friend, and they ask me how I'm doing, and I give them my whole spiel. And then I'm like, damn, I didn't even get them let them get a chance to say how they was feeling. So I think we need to be more attentive, um, even as adults.
I think when it comes to that, I think you should kind of ask your friends if they're in a space to be a listening ear, or are they, to want to listen to what you have to go through. And because sometimes we abuse it. Like me and my friends we vent to each other sometimes, or like I'll vent and then I carry on the conversation. We start talking about something else. But I do have friends that I literally every day, like I check in, like how are you, and we'll talk about how we're feeling in the morning, and then we'll check in with each other, and then we move on with the rest of the day. But then you have some people that um when they're going through stuff, like their problems will constantly supersede yours or whatever you're going through. And so Sometimes it becomes a burden and it becomes heavy, especially if you're close to that person. So I know for me personally, I had to kind of pull away from some people because whatever they were going through was so heavy that their problems started to become my problems. And I'm like, wait a minute, I got enough on my plate. I can't take on yours as well. So I think that when you are checking in on your friends, like you have to make sure that your friends are in a space where they can talk to you and they are in a space where they are allowing you to vent because sometimes, especially if the person that is talking to you, they've vented to you about this on several different occasions and they're not doing anything to change it, then I'm going to become annoyed. So it's going to get harder for me to want to listen because then I'm going to get to the point where I don't care anymore because I've already told you what I think you should do. Now, I'm not saying you got to do what I told you, but if you're going to keep coming at me with the same problems every time I talk to you, then it's going to get to the point that I'm not going to talk to you.
And people with them victim mindset.
Yes.
And they are really good at, like, they almost fall under a narcissist because they're really good at making you feel bad
Right.
about what they're going through. And so you start tapping into how can you help them, and you automatically put yourself on the back burner. Because half the time when people are going through the situations that the narcissists present, we're in no kind of shape to help them because we got our own stuff going on. But playing on your sympathy is what certain people are good at. And I do have some friends where I feel like, okay, you can get 5 minutes to vent about it, and then we're gonna talk about something else. Because it can become draining. Even though you're not involved in it, it becomes draining.
It definitely does. I literally just went through this and I literally just like I can't anymore. Like it really became all about that person, even in the midst of me wanting to talk about good things that happened or whatever. Like everything literally turned and flipped into what was going on with that person to the point it was just like I literally stopped telling this person anything. Like no good news, no bad news, anything, because it always flipped into what they were going through. And it's like it's exhausting mentally, it's exhausting emotionally, because it's like, okay, what else do you want me to do? Like, I'm tired of hearing the same things over and over.
Like, dang, what you want me to give you a whole, my limbs, my brain?
Right. It's like, what else am I supposed to do? Like, I can only do but so much. And and the thing about it is that's when that person themselves have to really step outside of themselves and be like, okay, maybe I need to go seek professional help.
Absolutely.
Or, because I'm burdening my friends. And I've always been the type of person like, oh, I don't like to burden my friends with my problems. But like I'll talk to my friends about certain things. I'll talk to them about everything. But I just think that we really have to protect each other because some of the stuff that people lay on you is heavy, and then you got to sit here and you got to deal with that on top of your own emotions, and then you don't want to, I guess, feel bad because you're pulling yourself away. But that was something I had to learn. Like I can't walk around with guilt. I did all that I can do, but you can't keep laying your problems on me, and I'm just supposed to sit here and just be like, okay.
Yeah, like it's like you don't want to get caught up in being a fake friend, but you also is like I can't give you but so much of me, especially when you're going through your own stuff. And I think the biggest thing that I learned in this phase or journey is that I have to identify who I can talk to about certain things. I have certain friends that I talk to when it pertains to certain things because I don't want to let anything pressing on them because I know that they might be going through certain situations. And then there's some people who, when you're trying to talk to them and get advice, they just be on planet Zaza.
That, or it turns into them like a story about them. Like I used to do that, and I realized like, all right, let me not flip on that. Like I used to be like, oh, okay, well let me, and I would tell my story. But when somebody pointed that out to me, like when I was in college, like freshman year in college. Shout out to twin. I think it was Antonia, one of y'all, one of the twins. She had brought that to my attention, and I was like, "Oh, you're right." So now, like, I try not to do that. But you have people like when you're talking about what you're going through, then they want to tell you the story of like what they like when Steve Harvey was on the verses, and he had a story for every damn Isley Brothers songs, like something like that. Like if I'm just trying to talk to you about what's going on, don't tell me the stories of your situation. Sometimes I just want you to listen. So I think that's something that people have to learn too.
Yeah, that was something I definitely had to learn um, because I had kept so much stuff to myself. It's like when you're talking to somebody who's going through, who went or is going through something that you went through, it's like, okay, I want you to understand that I'm not just saying I understand just to say it. I want you to be able to know that, yeah, I went through that, so here. But I learned if you can take away the story part of it and just try to apply or give advice to someone about what you did when it happened to you. They don't even have to physically know the whole story. You just, well, have you tried this or I tried this? I think the most important thing is how we present things to people. And a lot of people have go through certain things where they're expecting you to react how you would. And that's one of the things that I really had to overcome because it used to really piss me off. It used to really piss me off. I was like, okay, so if it was me in this situation, I wouldn't even act like that. With the way you're acting, but I'm like, okay, we can just stop. You can't expect everybody to react the same way
The
that you
same way
would.
that you do. Right.
And I think that is mindful when you're trying to talk to someone who is having, I don't want to call them episodes, but someone who's experiencing their mental health declining. You have to be mindful of not just if you was in that situation, how you would want someone to approach you, but that they're not going to respond or react how you would want them to. Um, we're going to talk about some of the causes of mental illness. It can be inherited traits.
Bipolar is definitely hereditary.
And speaking of inherited traits, this is why it's important for, I know our parents and grandparents came from a different generation, but this is why it's important to really fully discuss the family dynamic because it was a lot of people in our family that suffered from mental health and never got help from it because they was told, oh, they just crazy. And understand there are some people who are just crazy in the world, but then there are some people who, if they sought help or actually had help, they would be able to process certain things differently. Your environmental exposures, meaning while your parent is pregnant with you, whatever they were around, or what you're exposed once you are born.
I think that goes a lot with the population of kids that I work with. A lot of those kids are truly products of their environment. Like the program that I worked with in PG County was called the transition program. And with the transition program, it was a way for them to eventually transition back into the classroom with the rest of the kids. But it just was a matter of them managing their behavior, their emotions, and things like that. But just working with these kids for as long as I have, and I'm telling y'all, white children ED and black children ED are two separate different things. I'm just throwing it out there. I've been on both sides of the track, very, very different. Um, but yes, those environmental factors play a major role because I've worked with kids that literally were just angry because they didn't have no heat last night or they were hungry. And that's literally was the cause of their behavior. That's all it was. The child was hungry. That was it. But because this was a common thing that was going on in his house all the time, Okay, then he got the ED label, but that really was his environment.
Yeah, like I dealt with kids who they would be perfectly fine at school with me or and before and after kids, but their parents was always saying, "Well, they don't know how to sit still, and they don't, I'm always yelling
Yeah, I
at
get
them
that
all
all the
day, every
time.
day." And like I stated before, if you're a parent of multiples, please make individual time for your children because that lack of attention thing does lead to sporadic and out of control behavior.
Definitely seeing it with kids I work with that had siblings, and it was like three or four of them. They'd be like, "Oh, well, this one fine and this one fine, but that one, okay, because
Yeah,
that's not the one that's getting the attention. The other two
exactly.
getting more attention than this one." That middle child syndrome is really real, y'all. Like I've literally seen that. I work with some siblings, and that middle one was off the chain. The oldest one, the youngest one, cooling, but the middle one, you could tell that it was something that she was lacking. She wasn't getting what everybody else was. So it was a lot of stuff that she did that caused her to get in trouble. But it was because she was, seeking that attention that, everybody else was getting.
And the last one is the brain chemistry. It can be just naturally occurring brain chemicals that don't carry signals to the correct part of your body and brain. And that you generally find in a lot of children who their parents experience some type of drug habit or addiction. I've had some of them kids too.
Yeah, definitely where I work with kids. So when we talk about an ED with an emotional disability, I will tell y'all, working in education, that 95% of the kids that you come across with that label are not true ED kids. They are not. I have probably worked with maybe three that I know for a fact are true ED kids, and those are not elementary school kids. The Caucasians one, yeah, they those really got issues, and then the kids that I've been working with now, most of them are not ED. Most of them are truly products of their environment. But yes, I have worked with a child that was a crack baby, and literally, like you could tell that that child definitely had an issue with self-regulating. Like soon as Shorty went on, like one day I felt her. She was gonna go, so I put the pause on them respectfully, and I could feel her. She was skinny, and I could feel her muscles tightening up in my arms as I was holding her. But like she really didn't remember nothing. Like as soon as she calmed down, she didn't remember none of the stuff she did. But that was because of what happened to her, that chemical imbalance. You know what I'm saying? Those kids literally they take meds, and they take some of them take some heavy stuff. And a lot of them, they are on it for the rest of their lives because they need that.
Yeah, I do believe like some children, the children that have chemical imbalances, yes, I do think that they do need to be on medication that is age and dose appropriate. But there are some kids who I feel like their parents have just listened to the doctors and just get better.
I used to hate seeing some of my kids on the medicine because
completely different personalities.
When they would be on the meds, they would be like sluggish, they wouldn't have no appetite, they would want to sleep all day. Like I prefer them to be flipping tables and desks as opposed to wanting to go to sleep and just.
Yeah, I think everybody's body reacts differently to the medications. Because I had some kids when they're on their medication, they're bright eyed students, they have intellectual conversations, they can focus. And then I have kids who, when they're on their medication, it's like they're in a zombie phase.
Yeah, I didn't like when my students were like that. Give me the one that's gonna cuss me out. Like I'll take that over the one that wants to sleep and yeah.
I do want to say that as we're talking about it, mental illness is common. About 1 in 5 adults have a mental illness, and it can begin at any age, from childhood to your later adulthood. Um, it can be temporary or it can be long lasting. Some of the risk factors increase the risk, of course, developing a mental illness. So as we talk about, is the history in your family, or might have been stressful life situations, whether it's financial problems or death in the family.
Traumatic events definitely
Absolutely.
change. They change you, period. I don't care who you are, anything is traumatic.
And then I've watched some people who have gotten diagnosed with certain things, like chronic medical things, where it plays so much on their mental. I have a friend who was diagnosed with HIV. They were found out they were HIV positive, and it's almost like they just gave up on life for like a year. And so I think if any of the traumatic experience or something happens to you, um, if you don't have anyone around you to talk to, please reach out to a mental health professional, because they can help you process those thoughts more than someone who's not going through it. Your family might not understand it. If you're not spiritual, because I know a lot of times in the Black community, they want to say, go pray about it or go talk to pastor about it.
Listen, that's why we have the mental health professionals, because somebody had to have that gift to be able to help others in that realm. But like with the traumatic events and things like that, so we all have a baseline. Okay. And so whenever something traumatic happens, our baseline changes. So now we have a new baseline. You will never go back to this is in the book, this is real, this is real stuff. You will never go back to that baseline because whatever happened, it changed you, whether it changed you in a negative way or a positive way, your baseline is now different. And so now it's up to you to continue on after the traumatic event. But sometimes people do develop these different mental disorders because even in the midst of those traumatic events, they don't take time to deal with the trauma. So, like a lot of people, sometimes, like with death, sometimes death doesn't hit you until later on because you haven't taken time to deal with it. Sometimes people do things to keep their mind off the death. You go to the funeral and it's just like, okay. And then the latter part, maybe months go by, years go by, and then the reality may set in. So then that can cause you to go into a depression. So a lot of things, and we do this. That's why you see so many adults, especially in our generation, they functioning alcoholics, they functioning drug addicts, they functioning with depression because they don't even know what it is. All they know is, all right, well, I'm gonna drink this drink and it's gonna make me feel better, and I'm gonna go to work and be on by my day.
And I was on them.
And so, but you really have to get to the root of the issue and the root of the problem. Now, we're not saying that you can't go out and have drinks and have a good time, but when you're to the point where that's the only thing that allows you to function to get through your day, that's a problem. And people don't see that. And then it's like, okay, and it's not even just drugs and alcohol. Some people use sex, people use relationships, people use other people, whatever. But it's all different things. Something that could be a positive thing can turn into a negative, and can be used as a coping mechanism. And all coping mechanisms aren't healthy coping mechanisms.
I think that was the biggest thing that I had to learn was I learned that it's certain things that I couldn't cope with without help, because I'd say for probably about 17, 16, 17 till I was like 24. The only way I could cope with things is I would just drink, like every single day drink. When I tell people this, they're looking at me like I'm crazy. But the people who's around me, they know, like, it's some things that pop up on Facebook memories. Like, I don't even know what the fuck I was talking about. It's just 'cause I just used to be like real drunk. Um, and speaking of like when you suffer a loss, I think that's one of the things that humans take the hardest. And even though there's so many things out here that we can cope with, I know I'm guilty still of having a drink whenever I'm dealing with loss. Um, it is okay to let them emotions out. If you cry for 2 days, cry for 2 days.
Please.
If you don't cry for a year and then it finally just builds up and comes out, whatever you do, you need to release it. Um, Today marks 5 years since my best friend was killed, and we went to the cemetery today, and we all. It was nice to have everybody's face because we hadn't really been together in a while. But then that reality started setting in. Like when you go a while without physically going to like the cemetery and seeing those headstones. For me, I always processed it as they're just on a vacation. Because when you have to really sit and deal with the reality of someone you were so close to not being here anymore, it makes it hard because especially when it's somebody that was in your daily life. And so like I really had to process my thoughts today and I had to go cry a little bit. I might cry while we're here in the show. But like 5 years really went by because it still feels like yesterday since, I had that conversation and got that phone call. And I had to be the person to make the phone calls to the whole circle. And so sometimes you try to indulge so much into your daily schedule so that you don't think about it. And I'm just telling you, it's not healthy. So as I stated again, whatever you got to do to release it because letting it build up just turns to bad coping mechanisms that turn into habits. I think you stated one time before it takes 21 days.
21 days to form a habit.
And I know a lot of y'all is happy that the outside is open because y'all can go to the bar and mask y'all problems, but you need to cry it out or something. Just let it out some other kind of way. Um, I do want to take a quick break before we keep going on. But there are a couple of events that are coming up in regards to when we had the Pretty Pampered Queens Auto Club here. They are going to have two events coming up. Let me go these dates because I said I was going to talk about it. So they're going to have their self care drive on June 5th from 1 to 5 p.m. They're asking to donate socks, sport bras, personal hygiene items, cosmetics, and they're going to be donating to local area shelters. The address is 6202 Annapolis Road in Hinesville. You can text their president for more information, Meek, at 240-619-6719. I will be attending this drive just because my aunt called me with all this stuff that she wants to give away. She has all these bags of clothes that she wants to give away. So I will be there and present for that drive. This week I am not. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna play any new music. I any local new music. I'm sorry. I was very indulged in listening to J. Cole's new CD that dropped on Friday. And I just want to say that that's a talented motherfucker.
I haven't listened to that. I listened to Nicki Minaj because I was taking back to my club days because I was so happy that that music was finally available.
But so I'm gonna play two songs from his album. The first one is my favorite song. It's called "Pride Is the Devil," and it's a lot of adults. I'm sorry, y'all. I ain't clear for nobody here in the studio. I clear my throat just because it's a lot of adults that should listen to this song. Um, if you're even if you're not a J. Cole fan, you'll be able to relate to this song. It says a lot of things. I'm gonna give some more review after I let y'all listen to the
All right,
song.
y'all. I'll be back after the break.
Hey, now on Instagram. Somebody watch your YouTube channel. If you saying something, you can't see the comments right now. You watching on Facebook? I'm sorry. It's like, bro. We'll talk about how people can help you. Get it out, then be it. Let me see it. For a real type bitch, let me be it. I'm from the South, never had hands out before I live my people's far about. Take it out your mouth. Deep in the quick to switch up. I'm from the low, so I don't need to click up. It ain't directed, so it ain't respect. Stop trying to exclude, cause I ain't no detective. I'm trying to win. Don't care how I do it, just know that I did it. Why you so worried about what I be doing? Counting my money ain't making you rich. Talking down on me don't make you shit. My name in your mouth more than your spit. I really encourage my haters to talk. Throwing that shade on me. Diamonds on my neck, new contract, I ain't signing that hoe yet. I been playing fly, so it's time to go to jet. I drop it after hit it, that's the domino effect. You niggas out there going flat. Ain't no stopping these people. Paper all day like a monopoly. Brand new products, I'm proud of me. Actually, came from the bottom, after he relax me, and he see the half of me. Ain't no passing, that's a no-go. Starting killer playing niggas out throwing logos. I done got good with this shit. I told the paparazzi to get my angle every time I take my photo. Another one. Okay, so clearly that second song was not from J. Cole's album. That was from DJ Khaled album I did, but I do like that song. It's very upbeat and inspirational. Basically, let the haters talk. But the first song that I played, "Pride is the Devil." That song he talked about so many different. I see a lot of Rolexes. I'ma buy them off and these niggas right after the family. I can show you what style. I can show you what rapping. After all this shit that happened, no, we gotta be brothers. Cal Williams said we good and we better than that. But we get shot and nothing happens. How we settle for that? You see, this culture expensive. That's why they pay to us. Terry Crews niggas tap dancing for that. I never let nobody less than treat me less than them. You can't handle Mr. Charles eating Panda Express. I'm burning stage in the studio for let niggas in. I leave my weapon by the speaker. So I mean, it might be cool. I did amazing this year. I mean, I'm famous, but I'm drained. I need some prayer for real. It's so sad. Yeah, all I need is good vibe. I don't get inside. All my niggas dying in the prison, they be lying. I got something that's wrong when I fly. With the sun in the sky. All my niggas lying in the prison, they be lying. I got something that's wrong when I fly. You know, niggas don't got though. Don't worry about the kicks. None you ain't got though. It's impossible. I pray you keep some fire and some fire. The capital, the city. I think the capital was for white people that was getting too hot. You better you back, they gon' clap you and hug your mommy like story of country cold blooded. Tell Tammy Lawrence and Candace O'Neal is dead. You gotta get me credit on that 21 cause 2020 show me my vision was very inside. He said all that. We all need a reset. I got them. Or not. I always been a reset. I always been a lot of things, but none of them. But everything I got, I will be sparkling when you sing it. Like, oh, that's how I got music. I didn't know. That's right. Okay. That's what's supposed to happen. And I feel like Lane is part on next level Zoom. That's most likely what happened. Yeah, see, signed up. You know why you need these going on? That's the most embarrassing. They was on there. I was like, somebody took somebody's car. I don't know. Oh, you can still go back. That's the part where you can show live. Hey, they're trying to provide me. Find me somewhere out in London, you know that's a hideaway. I need some head and some more support me right away. Since I've been making donations, seems like you not in the way. Stories you told me about him, I can see that it's night and day. Walking from here to my bedroom and feel like it's miles away.
I had to witness my mother.
I want to paint, she want to paint, she want to ring us some sort of arrangement. Something that's dangerous. I want to change it, I want to claim it, I want to paint it. They know she wants, she diamond, she getting fired. She on the guy, she want on the side, trying to get in the mix. Find me somewhere out in London, you know that's a hideaway. Anytime I some more, call me right away. Since I've been making donations to you like you not in the way. Stories you told me about him, I can see that it's night and day. Walking from here to my bedroom and feel like it's miles away. Oh yeah, sorry y'all. We had to take a brief intermission. Some technical difficulties up here. But if you're tuned in now, we are live on Facebook, on the regular page, on the podcast page, still live on YouTube. And if you're tuning back in on Instagram, I'm live. Um, yeah, so my bad. We definitely got off track about like 5, 10 minutes. But so I was saying, Pride is the Devil. If you did not catch that song, or if you haven't listened to it, please go listen to it. Like he talks about so many situations. And it's a snippet in that song. I'm telling y'all right now, it better not be no deadbeat daddies posting that shit on fucking Father's Day. I said this shit. I'm sorry. So clearly, none of social media want us to play no damn music at all. At all. But as I was saying, No deadbeat daddies should be using any of those phrases in J. Cole's song.
I wasn't even listening to the words. Y'all was so engrossed with what was going on. I done missed it. I'm gonna have to listen to them all.
Now, I would play just the snippet of that one part of the song because it's one part of this song.
Instagram, I do not own the rights to this music because y'all need
You know what? Yeah, so I'm not gonna play it again. But I will post the lyrics.
Y'all be doing that.
I will post the lyrics under the video. I will not do it again. Like, look, every social media has cut me off again because I played the music.
Literally, y'all. This crazy. Like, I don't understand how
We've been doing this shit for 2 months, 3 months.
I'm getting videos, notifications about videos getting blocked because of music. So now when we play music, I gotta go on breaks, y'all. We gotta like break up our social media because they really be trying to block us. They really be hating.
And I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all right now that the whole first part of the show will not be on Instagram because they fucking just booted the shit out of my ass and I didn't get to save it. It's gone. So lesson learned. We're not playing no music.
The only ones they ain't block is when you play like local artists. They don't know them people.
Exactly. That's exactly how. So now on, if you're a local artist, please send your music. If it is not on a regular platform, or if it's on YouTube or something, send it to the email dmvzvibepodcast@gmail.com. And either myself or Phil the Swagger, we will check it. I ain't gonna lie, we gonna listen to it before we play it up here, okay? We're definitely gonna listen to it. So we not gonna act like we WKYS up here. It's not no trash or great. We're not gonna do that. I'm telling you right now. I am biased.
If we don't play it,
yeah, you need to send me your best. Act like this is 95.5. Send me your best song. It needs to be already edited. We're not doing no editing up here, but we do want to promote y'all music though.
yes, Trumpetone.
As well as since we already off topic anyway. And so you send your music. If you have a business that you want us to do promo for, please send it to the email. If you don't have the email, you can go to the Instagram page, and it's on the Instagram page. You send an email, you send a DM. Next month, I am going to start charging for promo. Promo slides are going to be running for $5 next month.
That's cheap.
It's pretty cheap. Because not only will you get promo on the radio, you'll get promo on Instagram and Facebook. So $5 sounds like it's pretty fair.
I think so.
Okay, so it ain't got hot in here now that we done took this mini break and all these complications. But we're talking about mental health because it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we were going to talk about how, if you're a parent and you realize your child is having some of these issues, how you can cope with it and how you can help your child cope with it. I'm going to get some tips. I know people be like, oh, you're not a parent, but I work with kids longer than some of y'all been parents. So, how you can help with it, because you're going to play an important role in supporting your child's treatment plan, which is important.
Yes, very. Please.
The treatment plan is important. You want to learn about the illness that your child has. One, so educate yourself. That means you have to read. Learn how to ask some questions to the doctors. Because doctors are going to give you, they're going to talk, they're not going to talk to you on the level that you need them to when your child is first diagnosed. They're going to tell you what it is, what may have caused it, and they're going to give you a treatment plan. That's all the doctor's going to do. The research part is your responsibility. You should consider family counseling for all members in your family. For anybody that your child is going to be around on a consistent basis that you have control over, they should participate in that counseling and as well as the treatment plan. You want to find a mental health professional for your child so you know how to respond to your child and handle difficult behavior. Because when they have those outbursts that you don't understand, whipping them more, it's not going to help.
Beatings do not help, especially children that have disabilities. Like you can't beat them. You can't beat it out of them. You can't beat them to change them. You really have to take time to engross yourself and understand the disability that your child has, okay? And learn about it. Like really and please don't be one of the parents, oh no, now my kid, now my like listen, don't be one of the parents. Like be open to it. Be minded to what you're being told. And like for me, with my students, I always tell them that you are not your disability. You are not your label, which means that you can still function in society, function in life. You can still have all these things that you want to have. Okay. So don't let your label define who you are. Because as you can see, and I actually was talking to my students about this last week, there are a number of celebrities that have different learning disabilities and other mental health issues that are successful, like Jennifer Lewis, who is
I was
bipolar.
definitely about to say her.
She's bipolar,
And she plays the hell out of them roles.
She sure does. She's an amazing actress, but she did not let that define who she was. I believe Chris Rock just recently was diagnosed with a learning disability, but I can't remember exactly what it was. There's a couple other actors that have been diagnosed with dyslexia. Elon Musk just came out and said that he had Asperger's. So you can be successful with these disabilities as long as you learn how to manage them and to cope with them. You can be a functioning person in society, and you don't have to allow your label to hold you back from being the person that you want to be.
Absolutely. Enroll in a parent training program, particularly it's specifically for parents of children who have like when their child falls on the autism spectrum. I know I have one of my closest friends. One I want to say she's been very proactive about her child's growth, and he's one of the smartest kids I've ever seen. And she's been proactive, and they do weekly trainings as well as I know that she's very hands-on with teaching him outside of school. Like he goes to school on a regular basis, but she teaches him a lot at home. He is well advanced for his age. So don't think that if your child gets diagnosed with something that they're going to fall behind or lack something. As long as you are proactive about it, your child may be well advanced for their age.
Yes. Oh, there are a lot of athletes as well that have well, when you work in state, you can kind of pick out who the ED kids was. So I can tell you that Josh Norman definitely was one. Marshawn Lynch, you can tell it's all over him.
That's my dude.
But I love Marshawn, but you can definitely tell like
You know what I'm here for.
But one of my favorite retired players, Brandon Marshall, has a personality disorder. I can't remember the name of it, but I remember watching his football life. And y'all know when he was with the Dolphins, he said a food. And that's when he found out. But then he found out that like his disorder didn't have like any type of medicine or anything like that. So he had to learn coping mechanisms and how to handle the disorder. And like he went to classes and all that. So like shout out to Brandon Marshall. He does have his own podcast. I think it's more than just an athlete, I think. But in my head, that's like my BFF. Like, I think he's one of the dopest football players. But all I'm saying is, don't let that define you. You can still make it to the NFL with your little ED, okay? You can do it. And it's little ED. You don't gotta be dead. You can still make it. That's all I'm saying.
I tell people all the time, don't whatever disability or traumatic experience you've been through, that does not define who you are. Or stop you from what you can do. The only thing stopping you from what you can do is you. Oh, I'm sorry. That should have been my tip for the week, but I didn't do no video this week.
But also, please make sure as a parent that you also listen to the educators, listen to the teachers, because a lot of parents, I come across parents, when you are telling them what you see their child do, oh no, that's not my child. oh, my child wouldn't do that. Oh, my child don't act like that. No, your child does. And you know your child does. Okay. So you make it harder when the teachers and the educational team and the parents are not on board together. Y'all make it harder and it gets hard. It's harder on the child as well. Okay. Because you are telling as a parent, you are telling your child one thing. As an educator, we're telling your child something else. So it causes confusion in the child. So everybody should be on board. But again, as a parent, you have to be open-minded to what the information that you are receiving. Okay. And just because your child has an IEP or has a label doesn't mean that they are the worst thing in the school system, okay? Because you do have teachers like me that are in special education that actually care about your children and care about your child. And even though I've been cussed out, had desk and chairs thrown at me, I still come back every day with a smile on my face because I don't take none of this stuff that they do personally, and I tell them that all the time. Like obviously you here for a reason. So all that, and I got some of my former students that follow me right now. They know I still love them to death. I don't trip over none of that stuff. Um, but still, just you just have to be open minded.
I feel like when they're at a younger age, you find those things out. Like you have to say, look, this is just a unique part of your story.
Mhm.
Don't make it seem because soon as a parent defines it as a disability and drills that into their child, they use it as a handicap for the rest of their life.
Also, okay, please tell your child that they have an IEP or they have whatever they have. Because I've come across children that were like, it's not, I don't have an IEP. No, baby, you do. That's why you at this school, okay? Okay. So please don't think that you holding this information from your child is helping them because it's not. So still be honest with them and tell them like, hey, this is what's going on. Because once they reach a certain age anyway, they do sit in their own IEP meetings. So once a lot of times once they reach the high school age, the students do go sit in IEP meetings. Now they don't necessarily when I worked in elementary, I don't remember none of the little kids. But when I worked with the teenage all the way up to age of 22, those children actually definitely did go sit in their own IEP meetings, even if they were not, if they had no educational, it's some legality stuff they're going into. But yeah, most of the time they always sit in their own IEP meetings. So, but definitely please tell your child because I really have come across kids that really think that they in a special school because they be you're not here just because of
Child,
gender.
I don't work with kids who, when they get to joning on other kids, that's why you're in the slow class. First of all, y'all both in the same
Man, when kids that ride the short bus talk about other kids that ride the short bus, but y'all both ride the short bus together, like, come on, man. It's entertaining though. I love my
But
baby.
for real,
So
like,
I'm entertained 24 all the time.
hiding some things from children is just dumb.
Yeah, don't that one hide it. Like be open with your child about that because that's something that they need to know.
And so Phyllis Swagger covered one of the things was work with your child's school to secure necessary support. So that is one of the, for me, that's one of the biggest keys on this list because when it comes to the education, that's where you're going to see have a lot of those issues when you have children under the school.
And I will say that some of these school systems and some of these schools have failed these parents because I have met parents who have gotten to the point where they do not trust the schools and they do not trust the school system. So there still is a disparity between when it comes to oh, hey, you coming to class tomorrow? I'm calling you out since you're on my live. Anyway, y'all. But but there is a disparity amongst with special education, the parents, and the school system. The schools, I have definitely met parents where their child has been bounced around from school to program. And because you have people that just were did not really notice or really address the needs of that child. So these children are bounced around. And so that is one thing that just coming from somebody who works in this industry that we need to revamp that. Like all across the board. Because even with virtual learning, like it's just been those to me, the sped kids have suffered the most. And not just those with learning disabilities, those that um, have emotional disabilities and other health impaired, because these a lot of these kids, school is an outlet for them, and school is a way to get away from whatever's going on at home. So, but I just really think that we really need to work together. I'm a very big advocate on working with these kids because I see it. And we just need to come together. And this is just all across the board. I have worked with students from different parts of the DMV and different school systems. And I just feel like we are failing our students with mental illness and some learning disabilities. And the reason why I say some, because you do have students that just have learning disabilities that are still in general education and they're in a general education class. So they still get better opportunities than a student that has other different type of label and that's not in that general education environment.
The kids who have like the emotional, deal with the emotional side of it, those are the kids, to me, I feel that Prince George's County has felt the most
Oh
because,
yes, PG definitely has felt them.
and I'm throwing PG County out there.
Y'all want to talk to me? Come talk to me, because Prince George's County has definitely
PG
failed our
County,
special education students.
first of all, PG County should be called out because the number of adults, teachers, or even aides that have been fired from Prince George's County for things that were not their fault because they did not have the right resources to help those kids. Like I was one of them people who lost their job with PG County because of I'm not going to just blame the child because the school board fired me prior to the investigation. Did nothing wrong to this kid. The kid suffered from emotional, I think it was emotional distress, something. It wasn't even my one-on-one child. So I'm like, that should automatically been a red flag. I was very upset about that situation because it changed my whole career. I had to find a whole new career, a whole new job because it affected me in the long run to the point where they told me I could no longer work with children. Period. And that's all I had known for 10 years.
That's why I got my eyes across my T's, and I have to be very careful about what I do and what I say because as an educator, we take the brunt of everything. And a lot of times, that's one thing I will say is except for this school that I work in, but all the other schools I worked at, I've had amazing staff. Like our staff, we held each other down, we worked together. I will say that. But where I'm at now, where I'm fitting to leave, no, I didn't. I do not. I do love my principal, but it's other people that I'm just like, oh, you just really one of those every man for themselves. But when it comes to certain situations in special education, and I've seen some of these things happen to some of my former colleagues, that we are put in situations and predicaments where it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? You know, on the one hand, you're telling us to do this, but then you're telling us that we can't do this. And so it's like, we have families that we want to go home to, so we have to protect ourselves in other situations. So it's a very it's a very fuzzy that line it's a blur line. It's
because what we may consider in self-defense, the school board will look at it and you should have just let them do that.
Exactly. And that's the thing. So like I know when I was at PG, we had CPI training, whatever.
And see, you was at a school that got trained. I had worked at that school for 2 school years and got no
So we had to
training.
get certified in this training to be able to and see, and a lot of schools are taking those out, but to be able to put the students in certain holds in order to like get them to calm down and certain, I don't like to use the word restraints, but certain type of holds to keep them safe. I worked in another school the same way. So the school I'm at now is a hands-off school. Thank you, Jesus. I got tired of having to protect myself. And the previous school I worked at, I worked with adults. So you imagine me, I'm only 5'6". And so I'm literally up here trying to protect myself from grown men, 18, 19-year-old that are in behaviors that are towering over top of me. And a lot of these children don't know their strength. And so when they're in these behaviors or these episodes, they're giving it their all. So it's a lot. And we have to protect ourselves because at the end of the day, like we got families and stuff that we want to go home to as well, but we still want to have a job in the morning. And that was the biggest thing for me at that school. The time that would lapse between calling the right supportive staff as opposed to the child lashing out did not add up. First of all, we on the same floor. Y'all around the corner. Like, what are y'all doing? Clearly, it's not enough support staff. And because certain children had certain outbursts that were like, we knew it happened every day. It should have been someone in that classroom every day. They wouldn't send nobody. And so then it becomes a thing versus the child and their parent versus me. Because if you're not a teacher in Prince George's County or for the school board, then you literally have nobody behind your back. I was a parent before that. And that was the only thing that really tainted my image when it came to PG County, and then to hear like how many teachers after and before me lost their job for similar situations. It was like that's something that should be investigated in PG County public schools. I will say this that first of all, PG County, my issue with PG County, period, is we are the richest Black county in America. But yet, we are the lowest paying school system in the entire state of Maryland. But we have the highest property taxes in Maryland. So make it make sense. Like, why are you not investing in your school system? Why are we investing in our school system? And I will say that there's a lack of teachers, definitely special education, because believe it or not, like we go through a lot because not only do we go through the politics of education, but we're humans. So even with that, like sometimes we got to take our emotions out of situations. There have been days where like I have come home and I'm just like, work was just so heavy. Like it was a lot emotionally because you're dealing with your students and then you have administrators and all this with their antics and everything. So it's a lot. And then there's a lack in special education because we don't get paid enough. We don't get paid enough to deal with the stuff that and it's a lot of politics in Prince George's County School Board. It's so much. It's a lot of politics in education. Period. Like it is. It's a lot. And I worked at a Title I school. So, that's one of the lower income schools. So, they was getting all type of funding, all type of whatever. And the principal was trash. She was wasting money on stuff that we didn't need. And she wasn't, really to me, not investing in these children like she should have. She definitely didn't. She definitely treated our transition kids terrible. And I don't care who see this, but I don't know how she's still the principal to this day. Okay, because I don't understand. Oh, we're gonna talk about this later, but I want to know if it's the same. But definitely just special education period. And I'm not talking about again. I'm not really talking about the children with learning disabilities because a lot of those students, they're in a general education class and they have a one-to-one or they have an aid, and so they still have that inclusion. But even in SPED, like that's another thing that I would say that these special education classes, they're still too big because you can't have 9 children that all are in the same grade and they all have one got ED over here. This one is autism, Asperger's. This one is autism somewhere else on the spectrum. This one is bipolar. This one, like, you got all of these personalities in one room, and then most of them have AIDS. So you may have 9 children in a room. 6 of them have AIDS on top of a teacher and a parent. You got all these people in one classroom. And what I tell people all the time is working in special education, when you have those type of students, you don't know what you're gonna get, which is part of the reason why I like special education, because it keeps me on my toes. But you don't know what you're going to get every day. Like and one thing about me is I learn my students, like I learn their precursors. I get to be like, you know what? Because I used to do bus duty. So how they got off the bus, that's how I knew what type of day we was fitting to have. Like, okay, you all right, you got off the bus good. I say good morning, you grumpy. I see what type. We probably gonna see a couple flip tables. And I mean, it would happen. But it's just such a lack because even though they're in their IEPs, they're supposed to be in smaller classrooms, 9 kids is still too much for those type of children.
You have people who are learning, even though they have their own disability, they're still learning on different levels.
Exactly. And then a lot of them, now the autism children, most of them, they don't necessarily have educational goals. So when you talk about IEP, you have educational goals, some have social emotional goals, some have just different type of goals. And so you have some children that are that were in transition. They didn't have none of their goals were educational because they weren't on level. Like they were smart, but they had that social emotional piece. And of course, if you ever dealt with children that have autism, you know that a lot of them have they struggle with being social. They're socially awkward. So they struggle with that. Some of them, then you have some that's on the spectrum. They don't have what's the word I'm looking for? Like you know how we social distance. They don't have that awareness, right? So they will be in your face, and it's like, wait a minute, back up, because that's their social awkwardness within their disability.
Yeah, I had kids that used to always want to touch.
Yeah, and then you got kids that have sensory issues, and when you have these kids in a class with ED kids who, when sometimes autism they want to play, and you're like, no, I don't want to play, don't touch me, and the kid touches that kid. Now this kid pop the kid. Now you got a whole situation in the classroom, and so what I just saw personally in PG County, because I have worked at other schools where it's literally only been like 3 kids in class, 4 kids in class, and it worked out. But PG, no, y'all be having way too many of these.
First of all, PG County is way overcrowded.
Very.
Keep building houses and not enough schools
at all.
And then it's not even enough teachers that are coming out of college at this point anymore.
Because they were starting their teachers off, their first year teachers, and I don't know if it's changed, but when I first got into teaching almost 3 years ago, PG County was starting their first year teachers off at $35,000. What you supposed to do this? When most of them, they first year of college was $30,000. So that's another thing.
Pay no bills with that.
Pay your teachers.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I feel like if teachers were compensated fairly, you would have a lot more teachers that actually care.
Listen,
right now teachers have. I'm not gonna say half, but there's a third of
teachers that truly don't care.
Yeah, and I just come because it's a paycheck.
My students just be like, oh, you only here for a paycheck. I'll be like, listen here, I am not here because of the money. Preferably, I like what I do. I like
I
teaching.
didn't understand that when we was in school, but I understood it. After I worked in the school, I understood it.
I'm truly a teacher that's not in it for the money. I truly love what I do. I love being able to be creative. I love working with my students. I love to see my students learn, and even students, especially working in spades, students that don't normally talk or whatever. I love to be able to bring them out of their shell because I am that teacher. The same way I'm like bubbly and all that on here, I'm the same way in the classroom. So, you know, I really love what I do. But when you want to pay me BS money, like during this pandemic, I flirted with leaving education, but then I was like, what else am I gonna do? Like, I'm not one of those people that just want to go because of money. Like, I really want to be fulfilled in my purpose, and I feel like this is my purpose. I've been working with kids since I was 18, so
I have not liked the job since I have not been able to work with you, and that's on the 100. Like, my 7 years has been up now. Now, the only thing that pissed me off, like, so when you have to go through this whole investigation, because of course they call Child Protective Services for any kind of event to happen. I was never found or convicted on anything, but it was still put in the system that I could not work with children for 7 years. So that's one job. So that was my full-time job gone, 2014. It took a year and a half before parking planning was like, oh, well, this showed up on your background. I'm like, well, motherfuckers, I told y'all what happened at the damn school, what happened. I'm like, now it affect this job too? Like, first of all, that really played with my mental health because um, anybody who knew me, I worked at parking planning from like 2007 to 2016.
Like, who had worked at parking planning? Lord.
Yeah, and I pretty much worked in the same area. I always worked in Suitland. It was between I worked at William Beans and I worked down in Suitland Community Center. And I seen a lot of kids come through there.
Okay, because I see my parking planning family showing up.
Yeah, so I work with a lot of kids, and I watch them kids grow up. But them kids also help me grow up. So me not being able to work with them no more just threw me way off, and it took me somewhere. That was a phase where I had to really deal with, damn, what the fuck am I going to do now? Because by the time you work with kids for 11 years, now you're like, the fuck am I supposed to do now?
That's a fact. Like literally, like I've had friends like, oh, why don't you go work here, work there? And I'm like, I've been working with kids since I was 18, so I honestly like I enjoy what I do.
And I know you get asked this question. People used to ask me this shit all the time. You probably still work with kids because you ain't got no kids. I said, well, I don't know what the hell your kids be doing to you. But at one point in time, I did have a stepchild at home, and it didn't fucking bother me about working with kids because if I was having a bad day, those kids would fix it.
Yeah, them kids. Listen, it was always the kids that I did not like that always would latch on to me. It never fails. It's always the ones I don't like.
Well,
that will always want to be like, hey, yay, whatever. But I don't work with kids because I don't have kids. Honestly, I've always wanted to work with kids. Even when I was 5, I always wanted to work with kids. So now that I accept
I can't
to be working with kids in this capacity, no. But kids or no kids, like it don't bother me. Like, I mean, I'm not geeked to have a child. You know, if it's for me, it'll happen. But you know, I am enjoying this newfound body and minding my business. So,
if the Lord says,
right. If God feels that I'm supposed to have a kid and He sends me the man I'm supposed to have a kid with, then by all means. But until then, stepmommy me, please. Thank you.
Yeah, and I didn't play stepmommy for so long. I think almost every person I've dated has had kids. And that's why at this point I'm at a phase where don't bring your kids around me if you don't have no intentions of fucking staying for long. So that means we need to see if we gonna work out before you ever bring your kids around me.
Them facts.
Cause them kids, well, they be putting on your heartstrings. That shit had me in a situation I should have left after the first year and a half, and I stayed for 3.5 more.
Well, I ain't never been attached
Everybody around me and told me you probably did stay too long, but the child really did need you. And I'm like, okay, well, it made me feel a little bit better that some other people could see that because I was like really beating myself up about it. So it's a lot of situations in life that played on my mental health, and that's why this was such a big topic for us to talk about because so many things in our daily life can cause you to have I'm not say mental illness, but it can affect your mental to be the onset of it. And whether it's a relationship, a job, family dynamic.
Job, definitely. I definitely will say that this is part of the reason why I'm moving on to bigger and better schools. But I definitely will say that job definitely played a mental on me. Especially when you're already going through your own personal storms and then your job is still demanding of you, like you don't have your own personal things going on. And the biggest thing for me, and I'll just be open about it, because they already asked me, why I ain't want to come back, but I didn't tell them everything. But one of the biggest things was when my mother was in the hospital on life support. I still I took off for like 2 weeks or something like that, but I still had to come back. Um, and my mother stayed on life support for 10 days. And in the midst of, I did not want to go back to work because I knew that they were going to bombard me with all of these different things. And literally, that's what they did. Like, as soon as I went back to work, I mean, my students made my little day because they made like get little calls from my mom and stuff. Um, and they was happy to see me, so I was happy to see my students. But just how not necessarily my principal, but just how the admin basically treated the situation. Like, as soon as I came back, it was like, oh, we need you to do this, we need you to do this, we need you to do this IEP. And I'm just like, hold on, like, seriously, I just really just went through a whole traumatic event, and now you're basically sitting up here, bombarding me with all this work. So work definitely can play a role on your mental health. And so they actually sent me to therapy. Uh, they drove me crazy. I had to go to a therapist. I didn't go crazy, but I actually went and talked to a therapist, and partly it was because of them. So, which is part of the reason why I'm leaving. That and other things, but that was something that really stood out to me because it just, with the admin, it didn't feel like, okay, this is my mom. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, literally, I could have lost my mom. And as soon as I come back, because my mom was still in the hospital, so she had to go through other things before she got out. So I'm sitting here like, I'm literally going to work after work, driving up to the hospital. Like, I sat in the hospital room with my mother, putting in grades. Like, that's how, like, because this got to be done by this time. And I'm just like, really? Like, they were still emailing me. Like, I had to call my principal. I was like, listen, they're emailing me, they're trying to contact me, and they know that my mom's in the hospital. Like, at that point, I could care less about anything that was going on in the world. And so, definitely, I will say shout out to our generation. Um, the 30 and over. Because when we don't like where we work at, we will leave. We will leave in a heartbeat. Like, we will get, like, y'all, it's so bad that I found my resignation letter that I wrote last year, and I didn't even know where I was going, but now I'm officially gone. But that's just how bad it was. Like, but that was the
I put my job on the week. I said, well, who should I submit a resignation letter to? I didn't tell them when. I just said who. All I did was ask a question. So now they're like, oh, so are you leaving now? Or don't worry about when I leave. When you get that paper, you will know.
All right. I didn't have to submit a resignation. They sent out a survey and asked you if you coming back. No. That's what that was.
So now that we've talked about the causes and things, and the effects and how you can help in those warning signs, now we want to talk about those self-care tips for people who are experiencing what I like to call mental breakdowns or episodes or any kind of stress that you're dealing with. Um, so sleep is an important one. That was number one on the list is getting a sleep schedule. I fail at this every week, guys. Still working on it, but there are so many different things that you can do to wind down. And they have melatonin. Um,
I don't gotta do that.
yeah, I don't do melatonin. Most of the time, I just like to smoke some weed.
Yeah. So, my camp mom said, "Get outside, vitamin D." Pause. But y'all know what she means.
Um, the reason why I said sleep was number one was sleep is very, very crucial because it can affect your mood and everything. And the better you sleep, I think the better you are with dealing with your daily tasks. Um, I'm gonna work on this, y'all, with my sleep patterns. I be all over the place. Fearless swagger, no, I be saying that I'm gonna do something on a certain day and then I get thrown off 2, 3 days later.
Well, I don't have a problem with sleep because y'all know. Well, most people know I'm an early riser. If I go to the gym,
Yeah, you be up at the time I be
yeah,
asleep.
I get up at 3:15, 3 days a week to go to the gym in the morning. So
Yeah, so the next thing where it says get up and get out and get some vitamin D, meaning the sun.
it's
So
the sun.
for people who don't
The
know,
sun that shines, not
the-
somebody else's sun.
right, the sunshine outside plays a vital role with people who suffer mental illness. A lot of people don't know that. Like when it's cloudy outside, it can affect your mood.
Yes. And if y'all ever notice, some of these schools don't have windows. That's
Mhm.
another reason why I'm leaving my school. Because my classroom don't have no windows. I'd be so depressed in there for 7.5 hours.
Yeah, that's a lot. I definitely need to see.
I'd be
Give me a glimpse of hope. I don't care if it's rain outside.
7:30, I'd be like, yo, we going outside, though. We going outside. I can't take it.
Physical activity. Get up, get out, and move. Whether it's going outside to stretch, you walk around the block. I saw somebody earlier, they was just walking back and forth in front of their building. Perfectly fine to me. Get out and move. Do something. Okay, if you go up and down some steps, you just walk to the mailbox and back a couple of times.
Gym is like, for me.
Them endorphins, once they release.
Yeah, because I could be tired. As soon as I get to the gym and work out, I'll be ready. I'll be good. I'll be ready to run a marathon. And then go lay in the bed and crash. But I'll still be ready though.
Yeah, see, I haven't participated in morning workouts yet. I'm gonna try it one day. But right now, the afternoon workouts is good. It's just, once you have that momentum
Yeah.
or that flow.
Working out in the morning definitely gets me, but it's some mornings like I be wanting to crash, but then because I work out twice a day sometimes, so yeah, like it's days where I've literally been up at 3 a.m. and then go to sleep till 11 o'clock. But my body used to it too, so
I'm not gonna tell y'all what my life was like last week because I'm still catching up on sleep. Um, Aromatherapy, light a candle. There are so many candles that have specific effects on your mood, like lavender, which calms you, or the citrus scent to energize you.
Peppermint makes me sleepy though. But peppermint is a good scent.
I was about to get sidetracked. I use this peppermint conditioner and that shit just threw me off. I felt like my scalp it felt good, but then it felt on fire at the same time.
The peppermint, the scent peppermint, I used to burn oil, but it made me sleepy. But eucalyptus is another one.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna look. It's another one. Something else that somebody told me to put on my pillow.
Oh, well, I like Bath and Body Works rose and vanilla, something like that. They just had a sale on their aromatherapy over the weekend. So
it's some kind of frankincense. That's what it is. So frankincense is supposed to be something that you can put on your pillow and it helps you calm your brain and your mind so you can go to sleep.
Oh, and put your phones on do not disturb at night. Do it. I mean, now if you got a favorites on your phone, if they call you twice, the call will come through. But
yeah,
my phone goes on do not disturb at 10 o'clock every night. Don't call me. I'll call you. I'll be asleep.
So you can do yoga or
I
meditation.
don't like
So I've never tried yoga, but yeah. So you have meditation, and I take meditation as reflection time.
yes, meditation, yes. Yoga, I think. To each his own.
A lot of people take meditation time. Well, a lot of people, the older generation, their meditation time is called Bible time and prayer time.
Getting that prayer closet.
So this is something that I haven't personally done. It says house plants. Get a house plant. So I haven't done this
Mine's gonna die,
because
so no.
yeah, everything's gonna die in my house.
I don't have a green thumb.
But shout out to my dad. He bought me some flowers yesterday. I don't even know why he bought it, but thank you, Dad. It survived. It made it back home.
Yeah, I don't have a green thumb. They're making type of plants I'm trying to have. But y'all know what I'm saying. Anyway.
They're saying house plants inside your home can it purifies the air and releases chemicals in the air that can help elevate your mood.
Yeah, no, it'll die.
Only thing that I really liked that my grandma had was the aloe vera. So this is what I'm going to say. I feel like it's universal for men and women to get facials and pedicures when it comes to self care. I wish men would know that it's okay to take care of their
I'm
bodies.
glad I know some men that it's okay. They know it's okay.
Because it is nothing wrong with taking care of your feet.
Yes, please get your feet done because I know I'm gonna be laying in the
Don't be cutting up them goddamn
my
sheets.
legs.
And it is okay to get facials because a lot of people, some people aren't that well at drinking water. And so it shows up on your face.
I would definitely say,
especially for the people who shave frequently.
Yes. Oh, guys who have beards. Shout out to the guys who actually do have a skincare routine.
Yeah.
I know a couple and they have beards. I like beards. But shout out to those guys because seriously, guys, please wash your beards and take care of that because y'all be out here sweating and eating food and everything else.
Anywhere
it's
that you have hair,
yes,
wash it. I mean, yes, your underarms and
all
your
of it.
face and your head.
I love me a man with good skin and a nice man.
And if you need some grooming techniques or tips, look up Clean Cut, the barber, on Instagram. My cousin, he has done amazing things. He's a barber. He has his own shop, and he definitely has some things for y'all fellas. Y'all can order some of the products. Please, Clean Cut with a K.
Yeah.
Clean
Keep them
Cut
beards
the barber.
Both beards go a long way.
Yeah, 'cause some of y'all, when y'all start scratching them motherfuckers, it sound like sandpaper. And there's nothing wrong with getting, like I said, nothing wrong with getting a pedicure.
Yeah,
it's not just for females. I know when y'all go to the salon, y'all be seeing all these females, and then look,
you might
single fellas, make your way in there.
We be in there. Because if you come like, oh, fitness massage day next time, they're gonna put you in the chair.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Look, I move a lot when they be touching my feet and shit because I'm real ticklish. I move a lot. But sir, don't laugh at me. Just sit here, get your feet done, get in your happy place, put your AirPods in, put the massage shit on.
Relax.
I would say let Ling Ling do it, but we're focusing on finding some black businesses.
I'm telling y'all, once my nail tech start doing feet, it's over for that community. If she can raise I seen her shade, honey. You should raise that thing up.
So, fellas, I know y'all struggle to talk about y'all emotions, and it's even more difficult where in the workplace where masculinity still reigns over many offices. But if you're feeling stressed or overworked, please find a friend, your partner, or a therapist to talk to.
I will say this, women, when a man takes the time to vent to you and open up to you, please do not take that lightly. That means that man really trusts you, okay? And he feels like you truly care about him and his feelings. So please take that seriously and do not take it and weaponize his feelings and his emotions that he vents to you. Because again, that will cause him to shut down. And then for those of us us healed folks that's trying to be in healthy
We the ones that have to
relationships.
deal with
We have to deal with that, okay? I'm speaking for a healed Black woman myself, okay? I'm speaking for myself on that one. But women, please, 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 I do not take it lightly when I have male friends that vent to me or reach out to me, and I would never use anything that they say as a weapon. So women, stop doing that. Don't call that man soft. I used to call men emotional all the time. I had to start to realize like, dang, I can't even say that. He can let it out. Now he may not know how to helpfully or properly do it, but if he's willing to vent to you and talk to you about it, please take that man seriously and please listen and be open minded.
Yes.
Don't weaponize it. Don't throw it back up in his face.
And I'm telling y'all, so and that goes for them people who, if you're gonna forgive your partner, don't bring that shit back up later.
Please don't.
I'm telling y'all, some of y'all lose out on amazing people because they made a mistake and you never forgave them. So if you're gonna stay with a person after they made that mistake, you need to really reflect on: are you really forgiving them, or are you staying because you're comfortable? But that's the segment for
Ooh, yeah, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day.
Yeah. So there's a health tip about drinking water first thing when you wake up in the morning. I have done it before. It's supposed to help your joints and everything.
I keep water by my bed though.
I'm gonna try to start doing it and incorporating it. And we're gonna see how much of a difference it makes. Limit your social media screen time.
That's why my phone goes on do not disturb at 10 o'clock. I don't be checking my phone either.
That's probably why I still be up till 3 minutes all the time. But
once, okay, so
if you have an iPhone, because I don't know how Android works, but if you have an iPhone, it tells you how much screen time you have put in
down
on anything.
13%. Yay, go me.
I don't think mine is glass.
But once my glasses come off, because you know I do wear contacts, so at night when my glasses come off and I put that phone down, oh, that's it for y'all. So if you got an emergency and you in my favorites, and ain't a lot of y'all in my favorites, you better call twice.
I'm gonna tell you, that shit is hard for somebody who's a creative. It is so hard to turn your brain off and turn your phone off. And you want me to do both?
And half the time I only be hearing their phone ring because my iPad be ringing.
Retail therapy. A lot of people want to say it works for females, but it definitely works for fellas too. Just how ladies like gifts, fellas like shit too.
Yes, y'all do.
So
y'all
retail
therapy,
y'all like expensive fucking
y'all
gifts.
amazing gifts.
Because y'all shoes is fucking $300 a
big
pop.
feet
Big thing for me that always helps music.
Oh yeah,
I'm a
all that.
My range in the shit that I listen to, some people still be amazed. Yes, I listen to gospel music. I got a couple favorite country songs. I listen to jazz. I listen to pop music. I can't quite listen to the metal shit, but
I listen to some heavy metal, but it just depends on who it is. But y'all ask my students. My students know that before the pandemic, I play music in my classroom all the time because I don't like complete silence. But they know, and they be like, "Oh, what is this? Oh, what? Can we listen to?" No, you can't. You listen to what I want to listen to because y'all need culture.
And people ask me this all the time about so if you ever ride with me and we're going out and about in the city, I'm sorry, no, I'm not listening. I'm not gonna play no fucking R&B in my car while we're riding around the city, because that shit will put me to sleep.
That's what I've been listening to the last 2 days. But I'm listening to Chris Stapleton on the way home today.
Now, when I was going through relationship problems, yeah, I'd be singing, windows up. I'd be singing at the top of my lungs to the R&B music. But if it's nighttime and we're out and about, we in the streets, we are not listening.
We in the streets now.
We are not listening to fucking Ashanti.
Oh no, we're in the streets. I'm listening to Future or something. We in the streets.
Right. I don't know why people look. I know
Chris Brown. Just depends on.
I know WPGC used to have a little wind down the night. Trust me, I used to listen to. I forgot what the fuck her Justine. I think it was for WPGC.
I don't listen to the radio at all, y'all. Like
no,
the radio.
I'm talking about like when we was like in high school back in the day. So I used to listen to this shit. Love Talking Slow Jams.
I used to have this. I used to sleep the radio.
Yes, I used to listen to. I used to listen to Love Talking Slow Jams. every night at midnight they play what's that shit? Moments? Is it Moments in Time?
Moments in Love.
Yes. Doom, 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 doom,
That's my
doom,
song.
doom. Yo, I still,
You know that song.
that is
nasty.
on. That is still on my playlist.
That song is nice. They got several versions, and the man be mooning and all that. That song is a real freak nasty song, y'all. But I like it.
Yo, I still listen to this shit. It's still in my playlist. But music,
all versions on my.
Music is a big thing for me because I feel like there's a song for everything that you're going through in life. It just in your daily schedule, there's a song for everything. This song can fix your mood, the song that takes your mood.
Yeah, by Art Noise.
Sometimes I want to fucking like sometimes I can't listen to fucking NBA Youngboy when I'm mad because I listen to some songs, but some cause I think for me a lot of the things
just got into Y and F Lucci. I just got into him last summer. So.
Because I'm such like a music inclined person.
NBA
It's like
reminds me of my students.
Sometimes I can listen to a song and not hear nothing the person said. It's the beat.
Oh, I'm one of them people. I pick up on like the bass line or something like that.
Especially in my car. Oh, if the beat is thumping, I don't give a fuck what he's doing. I don't care what he's talking about. That shit just sounds nice in my car. And we're going 85 now because Young Boy is talking about something over this nice ass beat.
Yeah, Future, Lil Wayne, and DMX make me drive more aggressively. So I have to be very careful when I'm listening to those in the car.
It doesn't make me drive aggressive. It just makes me get to my destination.
And don't let me be off the pre-workout. Oh, it's over for y'all.
And so the last thing I'm gonna say is so those are self-care tips, and no, these are not just for adults. You can use this with your children. It's not just for women. Men, you can do these things as well. Fellas, I told y'all, I had y'all this week. It was not just about the ladies.
Yes, I'm an advocate for mental health.